We're back by popular demand. It's Season 2 of the Wedcast, brought to you by Film Media Wedding Videography. Hey guys, welcome to episode 4. It's Wednesday. It is time for the Wedcast. My name is James, and on tonight's show we are talking to the phenomenal, there we go, I've used it at the beginning this week, the phenomenal and amazing DJ Nick Chatten. He's a 7-time award-winning DJ. He's going to be coming on. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about how he got started as a DJ, the line of work, how he got from what he was doing into this. We're going to be talking about the areas he covers and all various things he does, including his hosting in the day too. So stay tuned. We've also got Leo coming up today with another brilliant question for Nick. So let's. I think we'd probably just get straight into it, shall we? Yeah. Let's get him in now. So without further ado, I bring to you the 7-time award-winning DJ, Nick Chatten. Hello, Nick, and welcome to the Wedcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Hiya, James. How are you? It's an absolute pleasure to be involved in this.
I am fine on this. Well, obviously, we were just talking about this before we came on. It's Valentine's Day. Obviously, let's start with that. I mean, let's talk love songs straight out the bat. Obviously, as a DJ, you hear a lot of love songs at weddings. Let's talk about weddings.
I do indeed. Well, firstly, happy Valentine's to everyone. Let's share some love tonight, shall we?
Absolutely.
Love songs. Yeah, big part of weddings. Do a lot of weddings, obviously. That's probably what I'm best known for, is weddings. Some great love songs. I think with love songs and slow songs like that, I just think they stir up so much emotion for different people for different reasons, and believe you me, I'm no different. I still hear slow love songs and they still make me cry, and I have a tear in my eye, so I won't tell you what they are just in case someone plays them when I'm with them.
That's absolutely a very important part, obviously. Like, I mean, what I was going to say as regard of like your first dance and stuff, I mean, the majority of people do have like a slow love song or whatever like that, but what I'm saying is we're coming more into an era now where it doesn't have to be like that. There's people who bring in, like, we've had like rock ballads or even pop songs. Do you think the slow love song thing will eventually fade out when it comes to your first dance?
I think I think traditionally, slow dances are associated with a first dance. From my point of view, I always say to couples, I say, look, your first dance, it needs to be something that means something to you, and it doesn't have to be slow, but what I like to say is that it needs to be something that will evoke a memory, and that memory could be, hey, when they first met, was there a song playing in the background? When the proposal took place, were you sitting in a restaurant? Was there a song playing in the background? And that's the song that every time you hear it, you have this image in your head of where you were at the time. I think that's more important. Me personally, all the songs that I love, they're all songs that I can associate with a time, a place, or a feeling. And I think that's the beauty of music. You'll never get tired of listening to those songs, and as new songs come out, there's certain songs that I can hear that probably mean nothing to anyone else, but once I hear it, I have a head full of memories, and they might be happy memories, they might be sad memories, or they might just be lovely memories. And that's what I try and say to my couples, it needs it. So if you think that song isn't slow, and you think to yourself, oh, I'm not sure it'll work, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. This is your first dance. So I would always encourage people, you pick a song that means something to you.
Yeah,
Do I think that slow songs are on the way out for first dances? No, I think there's too much love in the world for that. I think the slow songs will always be top of the list for most people for first dance. But like we said, I think that people are more sort of open to different types of songs for first dance now, which is good.
I mean, obviously, music just in general evokes different emotions, like you just said. Obviously, it could be a happy memory, a sad memory, and that's the beauty about it. And that takes me nicely on to, how did you get started in this line of work as a DJ? And was it just, have you always had a love for music, or how did you get into it?
I think the reason I got into music at an early age was because probably my dad. My dad was, my mum, I can remember listening to, my mum used to play an album by Carole King called Tapestry, which some of your listeners will probably know is one of the most, well-known albums of all time. And every single song is probably something that's recognisable to most people. So I listened to that album a lot when I was really young. I'm 56 now, so many, many years ago, sadly. But so I remember listening to music at a very early age. My dad's always been into music. He's very musically minded, plays the guitar. So I was sort of brought up on music, and as soon as I went to school, I was very focused in what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to leave school as quickly as I can, and I wanted to go to art college. So going to art college, again at the age of sort of 16 as it was then, that was just a whole new world for me. Going to art college, the fashion, the music, they were the two most important things you went to art college for. The third thing was probably to learn about art and what you wanted to do. But that's all I ever wanted to do. So I've been brought up on music. Love music, still do. Never get bored of playing music. Never get bored of going out and doing the job that I love. It's just love music. Like I say, so many happy memories with music and sad memories, and just great. Love it.
So have you you've always done weddings, or is that something you got into obviously not straight away, or how did you get to the wedding side of things?
I started off. I decided that my love of music sort of took over my life, really, and the way that I started was originally I come from Essex, so I used to live in a little town called Malden in Essex, which is on the coast on a estuary, lovely old town, great people, and I basically decided I wanted to do it, and I went to all the local pubs, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a free night of music. I'll give you a free night, and it won't cost you anything. It'll be a free night, but I want to play music. And if I'm good, and if you enjoy it, then I want you to book me going forward. And that's how I started. I was just basically giving out free nights. And then I built up a reputation in the town that I lived. And I think after about 3 or 4 gigs, someone said to me, I'm getting married. And it was in a really plush venue in Essex as well, called Stockbrook Manor. I went over there, and it was for a friend. And she said, and I worked with her at the time. I was in the motor trade, so I worked for Volkswagen. And she said, you can do my wedding. At which point I sort of smiled and said, yeah, no problem. I'd love to do your wedding. And then when she was out of sight, I panicked and thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? What do I do? I haven't got a clue. And to be honest with you, I winged it. I just winged it. I'm a bit of a sponge when it comes to learning. So I read a lot at the time. I was on the internet, the early stages of the internet. So I used to basically gather as much information as I could, so I knew pretty much what I was letting myself in for. I had the music. I turned up at this lovely venue. I started playing, got about half an hour into the night. Everyone was having a great time, and then all of a sudden, at the time I was using an amplifier, so an amplifier connected to some speakers. The amplifier blew up.
No.
Half an hour into my first wedding, at which point I just wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. I went downstairs, and there was another DJ playing down there, and I said, what am I going to do? He said, just calm down. I've got some active speakers, so they've got built-in amplifiers. I've got 2 spare ones in the bag. You can use them.
Yeah.
Literally within 20 minutes, I was up and running again, and that sort of changed my life, really. It really did, because I was going to be a wedding DJ. And I've not looked back. I still do parties and functions for people, and Christmas parties and things like that, and theme nights. But 80% of my work is weddings. I love doing weddings. I always say my next wedding's going to be my best wedding, and which invariably is probably the best way of looking at it, because it probably shows that you're evolving and improving every time, and that's the way I look at it. So that's how I get into weddings, really, and not look back really.
Well, as I've said before, like I've said it even on last week's show when I was talking to Simon about photography.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. The first thing I said to him was, obviously, if it's if you enjoy what you do, if you enjoy your job and what you do, it doesn't feel like a job, and then you know you're doing the right thing. And obviously for him it's photography, for me it's videography, and obviously for you it's music. And you go to work and it feels a natural thing to do, and you never know what you're going to get at a wedding. I'm sure you've got hundreds of stories that you've saved, but it doesn't feel like hard work, and that's why. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's sometimes not a walk in the park, but you do it because you love it. And in this line of work, in the wedding industry, I consider myself very lucky to be in it, because it's like no other job, and you can't describe it to people.
Yeah, I totally agree. And do you know what? Sometimes it's, I look at the way that I perform at weddings and the way that I work at weddings, and I've worked with you and you've worked with me, and you know how I work. And I honestly don't think, and this is going to sound really arrogant, it doesn't mean to sound arrogant, but I don't think there's anyone else that does it like me. And that's because I put so much preparation into it. I really do. When someone says, well, why is a wedding DJ more than a party DJ? Well, a party DJ literally will just turn up on the night. There's no real preparation involved, as you know, for a party or a function. But with a wedding, if I'm, I do a lot of hosting, as you know, so I'm there all day. But even for the evening, the only way that I'm going to gather as much information as I really need and want to create lots of memories and a fantastic night or day is by getting to know the bride and groom. And the only way you're going to do that is to sit down with them, to talk to them, to have a cup of coffee, to do a Zoom meeting, lots of Zoom meetings nowadays, a FaceTime meeting, because there'll be a little nugget in there that comes out when you're talking to a bride and groom, and it might be, like we alluded to a little bit earlier, so how did you guys meet? Oh, well, we were on holiday, actually, and we met in Tenerife, and then we went back to Tenerife 5 years later, and that's when he proposed to me. And were you in a restaurant? Oh yeah, we were in a restaurant. I always remember the day because such and such was playing in the background.
Yeah.
Bing! Straight away. There's my nugget. There's my nugget.
Yeah.
There's their love story. There might be things there that half the guests in the room, or they might be direct relatives of the bride or the groom. But when you start talking about their partners, it might be that you work with this guy, but his partner has never met the bride and groom before.
Yeah.
So straight away, if you start talking about certain things, if you tell a love story at some point, how did they meet? When did they meet? All of a sudden, it becomes interactive, and interaction is the key to any wedding. If you can make people feel as if they're part of a wedding, whether that be physical or emotional interaction, you've cracked it. You've absolutely cracked it. It's very easy for people to walk into a wedding, to sit down, to take their phone out of their pocket, to scroll up and down that screen all night, looking up at the DJ and thinking, entertain me, please, entertain me.
Yeah.
But if you can be interactive and you can get people involved emotionally, physically, you've cracked it. You've absolutely cracked it. And that's the beauty of weddings as well, the very fact that I've probably just gone totally off piste there, haven't I?
You're
from
fine.
The original question. But
you're fine. It's interesting what you say there, because obviously we live in a digital world now where I've been to weddings. I work with various suppliers, various DJs, and I'm not naming and shaming anyone, but I've been to weddings where they've just stuck a Spotify playlist on and gone, there we go, that's it. Yeah. And I've worked with you numerous times now, and it's the passion you put into it. You want them people on that dance floor, you want them to be on there and having the best time possible, and it's getting to know that bride and groom, as you said, and that's what I do when I'm leading up to a wedding. You meet them, you talk to them, you understand them, because you're with them on that day.
Exactly right. I always say to a bride and groom, I say, look, whatever happens, I can guarantee you that people will be talking about your wedding for months or years to come.
Absolutely.
Hopefully in a good way, but
absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
And I guarantee that people will be dancing, and I'll guarantee people that, and I mean, you know what I do after the first dance. You know, I've done. I probably won't say it now. I don't want to give too many secrets.
Don't give me spoilers.
You know, but so little things I do after the first dance that will make sure that you videographers, you photographers, you know, me, what you can guarantee is that everyone will be on that dance floor and they'll be dancing. And the reason for that is that straight away, you know, you've got your videographer, you've got your photographer. They want their pictures. They want their pictures of a full dance floor. You know, when you're looking back on them, the videos, the photos in 10 years' time, there's no time on those. It won't say this happened at 20 past 8 or this happened at 20 past 11. All you're seeing is just a room full of people having a fantastic time. They walk out of that room at 12 o'clock and they say, oh, what a wedding. What a wedding. That was the best wedding I've ever been to. Because he did this and we did that and they did this. You know, that's one thing I'll always guarantee from a wedding that I do.
I mean, it must be. I mean, I feel for you guys. I mean, last year I had Paul Allen on. You know Paul.
I know Paul very well.
He's a great guy, and we talked about various things we went through, obviously during the times of COVID and various things like that. But we also discussed things like, is it hard to, when a photographer or a videographer like myself, we take people outside for group photos on a hot, sunny August evening. Is it hard to get people back on that dance floor? Do you know what I mean?
Well, from my point of view, I mean, I know that's going to happen, so it's no surprise.
Yeah.
It's not something I worry about. It's not something I'm bothered about, to be honest with you, because I think every supplier probably regards themselves as the most important supplier on the day. Mm-hmm. You know, a videographer will think, and rightly so, because you know, if you don't hold yourself in that esteem, then you're probably in the wrong game. You know, because if you do think you're the most important person, you're probably going to be doing the job to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
It's no different to me. It's no different to a videographer, cake, your makeup artist, hair. It's, you know, venue dresser. They all think they're the most important person. Ultimately, you've all got to work together. And if that means that your bride and groom have paid a lot of money for you to be there, for a photographer to be there, they're outside and they're getting those pictures. Again, you're creating memories, you know, and if that's what it takes to get people out there, that's fine. From my point of view, to get everyone back on the dance floor, I will always be having a little look to see where you are, you know, as and when you're just about to finish doing what you're doing. And then you've always got a pocket full of, you know, little party bangers anyway that you're going to play at some point. And we all know what they are, you know, it's your Dancing Queen and it's your
Mr. Brightside. Yeah.
You know, it's all of those that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily play them early because unless you needed to.
Yeah.
But once you need to pull a little, you know, a party banger out of the bag, so to speak, you know you can play it, and you know you're going to get people on the dance floor. You know, I have a complete folder of those tracks on my hard drive. You know, when I work, that I know I can always rely on. So taking people out of the room, it's no big deal. It really isn't. It's to be expected, to be honest, James.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely see your point there. Do you think that it's really important once that first dance has happened, once that father and daughter dance or mother and daughter dance has happened, to go straight in with a banger to keep people on there? Do you think that's a really important, like that next song after the big ones? Do you think that's really important?
Most definitely. I mean, the trick is, and you know, any DJs that are listening as well, if you want to keep people on the dance floor after a first dance, you just hold them there and you go straight into it. You know, you say your little thank yous and your congratulatory words to the bride and groom or the couple, or to the father, whoever's dancing. And in the background, you know, you probably loop the song ready to play. It needs to be something that's recognisable straight away because people's attention span nowadays isn't great. You know, if you've got a 1 minute intro to a song, it might be the best song ever that will keep people on the dance floor. But if you've got a 1 minute intro, to be perfectly honest with you, after a minute, they've probably sat down and started drinking.
Yeah.
So, you know, you need to really cue up a song ready so that, you know, the most recognisable part of that song is ready for them to listen to straight away. So they think, oh, we'll stay here, let's dance.
Yeah.
You know, because you might think you're, you know, some sort of a Calvin Harris by looping in something, you know, that takes a minute, but believe you me, it won't do do any favours at all, or you do something slightly different. And again, without giving too many secrets away, you know what I do after the first dance, and that's a great way of keeping people on the dance floor. So
what I love about what you do, I said we won't talk about that because that's something that you do, and if you've ever been to one of the weddings that Nick has been a DJ for, then you'll know what we're talking about. But you like to kind of make it interactive slightly for the couple and also for the people in the room, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. Again, interaction is such a big part in any wedding. Again, physical, emotional. If you can make it interactive. Before I play that next song, as you know, I'll normally say a few words, and I'll say something along the lines of picture the scene, and then I'll go into whatever I'm going to say. So you're holding them there. You've got them in the palm of your hand. Because they're all looking at you, thinking, "What's he going to say? What's he going to say?"
Yeah.
So. And then you'll then just hit them with that song, and they'll think, right, okay, I'm staying there. Firstly, they don't want to leave the dance floor because they want to know what you're going to say. Mm-hmm. But it's how you say it and how you deliver it, and once you know how to deliver it properly, and then that song to follow them up, you've got them there. And if you can keep them there for 5, 10, 15 songs, that's a big ask, to be honest with you. Again, because people's attention span, like I've already said, is short nowadays. And there'll be people, you've got to also appreciate that people dancing isn't necessarily a reflection of people having a good time or a bad time. A wedding is normally a gathering of people that haven't seen each other for a long time, which ultimately brings in, they want to talk to each other. So if they're over in the corner, they're talking, that's no reflection of what you're doing. I hear so many DJs that get hung up about it. They say, "Oh, they didn't dance. Yeah, but did they have a good time?" Yeah, they said they had a good time, but I don't know if they did. They probably did have a good time. And they were probably tapping their feet away at the music you were playing. And so I never get too hung up about it. I mean, luckily I don't have too many empty dance floors, but if it's boiling hot and it's in the middle of the summer, people go outside and get fresh air. They're still listening to the music.
Yeah.
If it's bad, they'll come and tell you it's bad, I can assure you. But people, I think since COVID, I think 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock is now the new 12 o'clock. I think people do actually leave earlier now at weddings because our body clocks, all through the pandemic changed somewhat. People were indoors and they weren't allowed to go out or do anything, so they were sitting indoors watching TV.
That's interesting. That is really interesting.
At 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, their body clocks were saying, well, there's nothing else on TV, I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And, and again, I hear so many DJs, they were leaving at 11 o'clock. Again, that's no reflection on you. That really isn't any reflection on you. That's just 12 o'clock, the taxi prices go up, So if someone says, we'll stay until 11, so then you might want to just change the way you do things slightly. Again, I always say, for a party or a wedding party in the evening, your most important hour is your last hour, because that's the hour everyone's going to remember. They're not necessarily going to remember the fifth song you played at the start of the night, but I can guarantee you they'll remember Uncle Fred sliding across the dance floor on his knees, pretending to play an air guitar at 20 past 11. So, sometimes people need to start thinking about, actually, shall I play those bangers between 10:30 and 11:30?
Yeah. It's about adapting.
How many people are left?
It's about adapting the way you do it.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I want to we're going to talk a little bit about your hosting in a minute. Before we get to that, I just want to ask you a question. As a DJ, you must face venues with limiters. How do you combat them?
Well, I normally know what venues, because I've probably worked in most venues in East Anglia now, and I normally know which venues have got sound limiters, and I would, if I know that's where it's going to be, and if the bride and groom aren't aware of it, I would always warn them. Some sound limiters, sadly, will even go off when people scream. So if you had a younger crowd in, for instance, and you were to play a particular track that is a bit of a banger, and people scream, girls scream, young kids scream, I've had it where sound limiters go off. So You just have to adapt to it, sadly. You know, some of those, the worst ones in the area, have been made aware that they are terribly, the way they're set is just terribly wrong, and they've changed them. Others are just set in their ways, and
they won't.
They won't. You know, I've been to venues in the middle of the country. The only person they're ever going to affect is a cow or a goat in another field.
Yeah.
You know, but still they have a sound limiter for some reason. And,
must be frustrating. Yeah. It must be frustrating for you.
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
So let's talk about hosting. So tell us a little bit about what you do as a host and how you got yourself involved in that, and how does that go alongside what you do as a DJ? Okay,
right. So hosting, I really act as that buffer between the bride and groom, or the couple, and the venue. So I'm pretty much one stop. You know, I'll do everything. So my normal day, if I'm hosting, let's say for instance it's a 2:00 ceremony. So I would normally be at the venue at 12:30. I would make sure everything's set for the ceremony. I would then meet and greet all of the guests. I'm normally wearing a dinner suit, bow tie, so I'm a 3-piece suit, depending on what the occasion is, where I am, the surroundings. I'll always dress to the occasion.
Yeah.
I would meet and greet all of the guests as they arrive at the venue, because despite what you may or may not think, you know, there'll be people there that have never been to that venue, haven't got a clue where to go, what to do, and how they're going to do it, and what they should or shouldn't be doing. So I'm there, I'm meeting all of the guests, I'm telling them where they need to go before the ceremony, and that might be a bar, it might be out on a lawn, it could be anywhere, but it's really my job to tell them and to guide them. Straight away there, you're building a rapport with all of the guests as well. So because I'm there all day, I'll start off with, you know, I'll be the guy in the dinner suit, and then by probably 2:00 in the afternoon, 3:00 in the afternoon, I'm Nick. They all know me now because I've been speaking to every one of them as they come in and out of the door. So I meet and greet everyone, and then it's a case of making sure everything's ready for the ceremony. I would normally conduct all of the ceremony music, and I do that remotely, so I work from an iPad and then a remote speaker as well. I control everything in there. I make sure that the bride is ready. I normally have a trigger track for the groom or the whoever's at the end of the aisle, and the idea of that is that if you have a trigger track, it's something that whoever's at the end of the aisle, as soon as they hear that track that their partner has chosen, they know that their partner's ready to walk down the aisle. So it just eases them into the whole ceremony as well. So little things like that, a trigger track, that's the ceremony. Then they'll come out from the ceremony. I'll make sure that there's Prosecco or Bucks Fizz or a bottle of beer or whatever they're going to have as they come down the aisle. And then it's a case of, if it's outside, I would conduct the music for outside as well. So, for instance, cocktails and canapes, I would leave music playing for that. And then I would work with videographer or photographer. If you guys have normally got a list that's been submitted to you from a couple, it may be that, you know, it's the groom's family or the bride's family or their best friends or, you know, mums, dads. If I've got that list, rather than a photographer or a videographer running around a venue trying to round up these people, I've got the list, I'll go and do it for them. So it means that you guys can just get on and you can do your job. So you're trying to create this fluidity all throughout the day, really.
Yeah.
Once the photographs and the cocktails and canapes are done, then it's into the wedding breakfast. Wedding breakfast would normally mean that I would take the bride and groom into the wedding breakfast first to make sure that they're happy with everything. At that point, if there's an issue, if there's something missing, it might be a high chair, it might be wheelchair access, it could be anything. If there's an issue, then obviously it gives me time to talk to the venue to get that corrected. Once that's done and everyone's well, I would then welcome everyone in. I would obviously have music playing inside the wedding breakfast. Everyone would enter into the wedding breakfast, and then I would then start really the fun part, which is the grand entrance in for the bride and groom, which is normally, again, as you know, is normally high tempo, quite loud, a lot of interaction with everyone as well. If it's a hot day, if the wedding breakfast is say 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, people start to get lethargic if they've been there all day and it's been hot. Certainly, the way that I would do a grand entrance into a wedding breakfast would probably wake up most people, I would think, and it's a lot of fun as well. More importantly, it creates many memories, many great hours or minutes of video, and lots of fantastic photographs. And again, it's about creating all these moments as best you can. So, and then you're into wedding breakfast, and then it could be that they're going to do speeches before or after. I would always say to someone, if you've got nervous people that are speaking, do your speeches before the wedding breakfast, because what you don't want is someone that's nervous going through an entire wedding breakfast, panicking that they're going to be speaking at the end of that wedding breakfast, because they're not going to enjoy their wedding breakfast. So, yeah, I would always suggest speeches beforehand. I look after speeches, so I do an introduction for each speech as well. And then once speeches have been finished, then I would set up for the evening. Once the evening is all set up, again, I'm leaving music wherever they are so that there's no this sort of deathly silence. And then we go on to the evening. Evening would normally mean a cake cut and a first dance, again, to create this fluidity for the evening. So a cake cut and then straight into a first dance. The worst thing is that, a venue or a couple will say, oh, we're going to do cake cut at 7:30 and first dance at 8. The reason they'll say that is because they've probably never been married before. They don't know the best way of doing it. So as a host of a DJ, it's my job to advise.
Absolutely.
And I would always say, look, a cake cut and then straight into first dance. You're asking everyone to get off of their seats, to go round, to stand by the cake, make the cake an interactive cake cut, because traditionally that's what it should be. It's a part of the ceremony. Once that cake cut's been done, then they're all standing. You ask them around the dance floor, and then you invite the bride and groom onto the dance floor. And then again, that again needs to be interactive. There's, your emotional interaction there comes into play, because it might be that you do that first dance with the father of the bride, the mother of the bride. It could be a long-lost relative that they're dancing about. It could be anything. But that's where your emotional interaction comes in, because most people would be standing around the edge of the dance floor just assuming that the couple will be dancing. And then if I then say, James and Jane have decided that they want to do something slightly different this evening, and with that in mind, this is what's going to happen, and then I would introduce what's going to happen. Straight away there, people's emotions start to take over, and invariably you'll see people wiping tears away from their eyes, because it'll be an emotional part of the evening.
Absolutely.
Then straight into first dance, then it would normally be the case if they want, everyone to invite them to join them on the dance floor, they will do that. If not, the second slow dance, and then we go high tempo on the third dance, which is going back to what we said earlier. And then you've got food as well throughout the evening, and then that last hour. But it's just to really make it as interactive as possible, so that, like I say, when they're walking out of the room at midnight, they're saying, you know what, that was the best wedding I've ever been to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I do when I host a day. Amazing. So it isn't just a case of, I hear so many people say, oh yeah, I do all-day weddings, I host all-day weddings. Well, they might think that they host all-day weddings, but again, there's hosting and there's hosting, and if you're going to host it, you need to host it properly. It's not just a case of going in, with your polo shirt and your pair of jeans and pressing play for the ceremony, while you're hiding behind a pillar. You're a master of ceremonies, so it needs to be done properly.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really, really good, and I love the fact that you do that. And I've been to weddings where you have hosted, and it's a game changer, guys. So I'd really recommend, obviously, if you're going to book Nick, seriously talk to him about hosting the day, because it really gets people. He gets people involved in the day, and as he said, he's interactive and he's there to help. And that's really important, especially if you're not too familiar with weddings. And what you've got to remember, suppliers like myself and Nick and other people, we know that venue. You may not necessarily know it, and it's nice we know the people who work there. We can talk to them and say, actually, that's wrong. That needs changing, and we spot things that you might not necessarily see.
That's so true. That's so true. You know, and like you say, you know, we work there. We know how it works. We know what the venue's like. And a lot of venues nowadays don't like the responsibility of, let's say, for instance, ceremony music. You know, because again, they don't really, a venue wouldn't really have control over the ceremony music. You know, it might be that the wedding coordinator has said to a couple, hey, we need one song for your procession, we need 3 songs for the signing of the register, and then we need a reception song when you're walking back down the aisle. And they say, yeah, that's fine, yeah, I've got them all on my phone, and that's great. And then you Bluetooth it or you plug it in, and halfway down on your procession song as you're walking down the aisle, your phone goes, or you get a news flash come up, and all of a sudden everyone looks around as if to say, what was that sound?
What's happened?
You know, or if it's from Spotify and an advert will turn up, you know. I can guarantee you one thing, you do it with me, that's not going to happen, I can assure you, you know, because of the equipment I use. So it's, there's so much more to it, you know, and I still to this day, I talk to brides and the importance of music on your day. You know, imagine, you know, unless I said to someone, you go out for your cocktails and canapes, so people just assume that's fine, that's what we'll do, but are you going to just have it just a deathly silence? Oh, we hadn't thought of that,
There we go.
You don't necessarily need to know what it is you're listening to, but you need to be listening to something, because if you've got that deathly silence, it will just make people uneasy, because they just, you know, they feel that they can't talk normally, because they feel as if when they talk, everyone's going to listen to what they're saying, because there's no music in the background. So it's just really important.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of quick fire questions for you. Last year, what was your most played first dance song?
Would you be surprised if I said it was Ed Sheeran?
Oh, we're still in the Ed Sheeran era, are we?
Yeah, Ed Sheeran. Yeah, most definitely. Ed Sheeran, and probably Christina Perri, I reckon, 1,000 Years.
1,000 Years, again, very.
I think that's been the most popular for the last 3 or 4 years, to be honest, Jones.
Well, when I started, I've been now nearly doing this for 10 years. Next year's my 10th year. When I started then, I think in the first year or two, it was Thinking Out Loud, which was everyone's first.
Yeah.
And then we moved over to Perfect by Ed Sheeran. And it still seems to be very popular. And again, Christina Perri from 1,000 Years, which I think was from the Twilight films.
But don't forget as well, you've also got the Ed Sheeran Perfect, the remixes now. So you've got, like, with Beyonce, and then you've got Andrea Bocelli as well, the opera singer. So there's various versions of Perfect as well. So we went from just the Ed Sheeran version to then the Beyonce one where she was in the track, then over to the Bocelli one as well. So it's certainly earned him some money, I would think. Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on things like confetti during a first dance or dry ice?
Yeah, love it. Again, you're creating a memory, aren't you? You know, you'll never ever be able to recreate that first dance. If you're going to do it, do it properly. Uh-huh. There is no other way you're ever going to be able to recreate your first dance. So, Dancing on the Clouds is just fantastic. It looks amazing. Confetti. A lot of venues don't like confetti nowadays, but so if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking about confetti, my first thing I would say is, whatever you do, check with the venue, because if it comes to it and they're staring at you, you might get a bill for clearing up the following day. So just double check that you're allowed confetti. If you are, again, videographers, photographers, if they know you're going to do it, that's great. But again, work. As a DJ, I work with a videographer and a photographer, so I'll tell them, hey, you tell me when you're ready, look round and I'll do it. And then I'll say, right, I'm going to do it in 10 seconds. Because what you don't want, as you know, is that the confetti's gone off and all of a sudden you've missed it. Which has never happened, I know, with you. But, imagine if you didn't know and I just suddenly, I didn't know there was confetti.
Good heads up.
So
it's nice to have a heads up.
It's so important you speak to your suppliers as well and let them know what's going on and what plans that, you've got for them in their first dance.
Next question: what areas do you cover? Are you mainly Norfolk?
Just Alton Broad now. No, I'm only joking. No, I do. So I do a lot of work in Essex.
Do you? Yep.
Yeah, I do a lot of work in Essex. I do lots of work in Suffolk and Norfolk. So I tend to do Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk. I have done a wedding in Detroit in America, and I've done a wedding in France as well many years ago. So I have been known to travel. And I also did a wedding on Christmas Eve, probably 8 or 9 years ago, in Cornwall.
Wow, that's a distance.
I always remember driving home at 4 o'clock in the morning along the M4 thinking, why did I say yes to this wedding?
You drove home from Cornwall to Essex? Or Cornwall
I did.
to Norfolk?
And it was in a castle. It was in a lovely old castle. And they even said to me, Nick, there's a room. Please, you can... And this was before the actual wedding. They said, we've got a room for you, so you've got accommodation, and then you can wake up in the morning, and if you want to open presents with us, you can do that. And I just thought, it sounds lovely, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah.
So I drove home,
and
then sadly, I think I was in bed till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it totally ruined my Christmas day. But it probably also got me out of watching bits and pieces on TV that probably weren't worth watching anyway. So
like
it
the
wasn't
Snowman
the end of the world.
Yep. So very quickly, 7-time award-winning DJ, 2023, highly commended. Well done.
Thank you.
What was that with? Was that the Industry Awards?
Yeah, that was the Wedding Industry Award. So there's really, I would say there's probably 3 recognised wedding awards out there. The English Wedding Awards, the Wedding Business Awards, and the Wedding Industry Awards, which is the TWIA,
yep.
Queer, as we call it in the industry.
Yep.
They're probably the ones... Bride Book as well. Bride Book are a recognised award. And then you get lots of other awards, sadly, nowadays, which, again, lots of people nowadays, you'll probably see everyone's a multi-award-winning wedding DJ because they've won a wedding award, the best international wedding DJ, global wedding DJ award, or 3 best rated, like they've been compared to an electrician or a builder or something in their town, It's so it's very easy for everyone to say they're an award-winning DJ. But yeah, there's probably 3 or 4 that are recognised as being the best wedding awards. And I would say anyone booking a wedding DJ, if they tell you that they're multi-award winning or they're award winning, ask what awards they are.
Absolutely.
Just don't be afraid to ask the question.
Absolutely.
I was proud as well to be recognised by fellow DJs in 2018. I was awarded the DJ's DJ for the UK.
Wow.
So other DJs voted for me to say that, I'd won that. So that was probably the award of all of mine that means the most.
Yeah,
I got very emotional when I accepted the award. There's probably something online about me accepting the award, but I got very emotional because, that meant so much when all my peers were voting for me as well. And I won that. It was fantastic.
Absolutely.
It really was.
Well done on that, mate.
Yeah, proud of the awards.
You should be because you work hard for it, and it's nice to be recognised what you do. Obviously, you don't do it to be recognised, but when you are, it's incredible. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm very lucky, very lucky.
So I'm going to hand you over now to Leo. He's obviously, if you heard the show before, Leo comes in. He's my son.
Yeah.
He's got a question that he's going to now bring to you. The thing is with Leo, you don't know what sort of questions you're going to get.
Oh, no. Let's hope it's on sport or music.
Oh, we're going to find out now. So I'm going to hand you over to Leo. So good luck, Nick. And
all right.
Here we go.
Thanks, guys.
How many Rick rolls have you done in your life, if you can remember?
Hi, Leo. Thanks for the great question, by the way, Leo. I love that. Rick rolling. Yeah, I'm a boy from the 80s. I grew up in the 80s, so a bit of Rick Astley. Yeah, I love a bit of Rick rolling. I reckon every time I play that song, Leo, if I'm behind the decks and I'm listening to it, I'm normally Rick rolling. I'll obviously know every word to the track anyway, so I'm singing along. I'm Rick rolling, and a few times, yes, I have got the other side of the decks out the front, and I've had to show people how to rickroll properly. So it's something I do, I can assure. Not at every wedding, but a lot of weddings, Leo, a lot of weddings. You'll have to come along and rickroll with me sometime.
Fantastic, that's brilliant. And do you know what? Well, as I said, you never know what Leo's going to ask. So I mean, that's what he's got in his mind. For he thinks like DJs, we're going to rickroll, you know. Brilliant. I'll tell you what. I had my Spotify playlist when I used to go to the gym, and he jumped on there once. And I didn't know what he'd done. I was on one of the running machines. I was listening to my music, and all of a sudden the Rick Astley song comes on. I was like, for God's sake, he's done it to me. Classic Leo. Yeah.
I know.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Nick. Honestly, it really has to have a chat with you.
Has it been okay?
Absolutely fine. And before you go, just quickly tell us, where can we find you? Are you on social media? Do you have a website? Where's the best way to contact you?
So my website it's really easy. It's my name, so it's www.djnickchatten, spelled CHATTEN.co.uk. I'm also on the socials, and that's at DJ Nick Chatten. So I'm on Instagram. I'm quite active on Instagram. I've got a Facebook page, which is my actual company name is it's Nick Chatten Wedding and Party Entertainment. But if you type in at DJ Nick Chatten, it will take you to that anyway. So I'm quite active. I like to post lots of pictures and little teasers and things like that, especially on Instagram. I'm always putting stuff on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. And as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, and hopefully we can get you on another series down the line and catch up with you and see how you're getting on. But
most definitely. Just before you go as well, I just want to say well done for doing these podcasts. I think it's great what you're doing, and the fact that you involve local suppliers as well. And it's just I think it probably helps a lot of couples. And long may you continue to do it. And thank you for having me on it. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, Nick. And obviously, if we can reach out to, as I said, couples who are yet to get married and they're undecided about what they want. Sometimes it's nice for them to get an insight as to what we do and how we do things, because obviously obviously things like social media you can see, but sometimes it's nice to hear actually from the horse's mouth about a little bit about what we do anyway.
Yeah, and I know we're coming to the end of this chat, but the other thing I would also say is, listen, if it's not me, whoever it is that you want to have to be your DJ or your host, I think as a couple, the most important thing you can do is sit down and talk to them before you book them. What you don't want to do is phone up someone and say, are you available on the 25th of August 2025? And the DJ says, yes, I am. And you say, great, can we book you? Because the chances are the next time you'll see them will be on the 25th of August 2025. That's if they're still going. So it's really important, that line of communication. Speak to them, sit down, have a cup of coffee with them, tell them what you want. More importantly, the DJ will probably tell you what he thinks you want. And if that meets exactly what you want, you've got the right person. You really have. Stick with them and get them booked up as soon as possible before someone else does.
That's brilliant advice. Really, really good. Thank you, Nick. And all the best, and I hope you have an amazing 2024 wedding season. I'm sure it's going to be a busy one.
Likewise, no doubt. We should bump into each other, James, and have that Diet Coke together.
Absolutely, because we live in the party life, mate. We live in the party life.
No, we do. Live in the dream. No, it's been really, really good fun. Thanks ever so much.
Well, guys, that is episode 4 wrapped up. It's been another brilliant week. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on, and thank you again, Leo, for all your amazing contributions you do to the show. We do love your question of the week. It is brilliant, so thank you. Obviously, guys, these wedding suppliers and people that I'm bringing on are people who I've spent time with, who I've worked with, who I'd really recommend. So obviously, if you're still looking for parts for your wedding for this year or even next year, make sure you get in touch with them. That's why I always get them to come on, promote themselves, talk about where they'll be if they're at wedding fairs, or the best way to contact them. So obviously get in touch with them now, and with that, guys, I'll leave you to it. Have a brilliant week, and I'll catch you on the flip.